All right, so for today's lesson, we're going to be working on 13.3 and 14.1. So we're going to be working with some trigonometry still, which is rather important, especially for your Algebra 2 class next year. Now, your Algebra 2 class that you're going to be in is not just Algebra 2, it's Algebra 2 Trig. So that's why we're going to focus quite a bit on trigonometry in this course so that I can better prepare you for Algebra 2 next year, okay? But first and foremost, there are some special right triangles that show up periodically. And the first one we're going to look at is a 45, 45, 90-degree triangle. So basically what this means is that you have a right angle, and then the other two angles are going to be 45 degrees. And there's going to be a correlation between the angles that measure 45. They're going to correspond to the side across, right? And then your 90-degree angle will always correspond to the length across that as well. So when you have a 45, 45, 90-degree angle like this one, it will always carry the same pattern where the sides that are congruent are x's and the hypotenuse is x square root of 2. So let's go ahead and do a problem. What you're going to do with these questions, and it'll work the same with the next special right triangle I show you, is you're going to take the side that's given to you, which in this case happens to be the hypotenuse, right? If you remember from the previous slide, the hypotenuse was x square root of 2. So I'm going to set that equal to 5 square root of 6. Now, just for reference, I'm going to go ahead and redraw my 45, 45, 90 triangle, just for reference, so I don't have to keep on looking back and forth, okay? So my goal is to solve for x. So the first thing that I'm going to go ahead and do, I could do a few things here. I could decide to square both sides if I wanted to, which will work for every problem. I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. Or I could divide by square root of 2 on both sides as well. Now, the only reason why I'm contemplating which one to use, I would only divide by square root of 2 if I had another radical on the other side that was also divisible by 2. But that only will work for special cases. So let me go with the method that works for any problem. So we're going to go ahead and square both sides. And if you remember correctly that this square belongs to every item on the inside, it's kind of like you distribute that square to each item. So this becomes x squared. This becomes square root of 2 squared. Drop my equal sign. I have 5 squared and square root of 6 squared. Let me simplify a little bit. So if you remember correctly, when we have a square root and a square, they basically cancel each other out. And I just have a 2 there. 5 squared is 25. And same thing here. When I have a square and a square root, they basically cancel each other out and I'm left with just 6. So I want to try to get my x by itself. So now I'm going to divide by 2. You could decide to multiply 25 times 6 if you would like. I'm going to leave mine like this. And I'm going to go ahead and reduce my 6 and 2 because I know that they both have a 2 in common. So I actually will get x squared equals 75. Now remember again, I want all of your answers written in simplified radical form, okay? So now I'm going to square root both sides because I need to get x by itself. And I could do a factor tree for 75. Do not give me decimal answers, okay, guys? And 75 would be 5 square root of 3. And that is your answer. Let's go ahead and try another one. We're going to use the same exact pattern. If you remember correctly, these two are my sides, and this is the hypotenuse. Now, don't get distracted by the x, okay? In fact, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change my variable to y because this formula kind of that's used for a 45, 45, 90 triangle is they just use x here, but I want to make sure I focus in on this x being something different. So I'm going to go ahead and change my formula to be in terms of y instead, so I don't get confused. All right, so I start with the side that I know. I could pick either one, where basically it's saying y equals 6. So see, if you left that as an x, you might already get confused and you might say, okay, x is 6, and then that would be incorrect. So just be careful with that. My goal is to find this side, the hypotenuse. So x is equal to y square root of 2. And I just found out that y is 6. So there you go. X is equal to 6 square root of 2. So always start with the side of information that you're given and set it equal to your variable from the formula that I gave you at the beginning. All right, now I believe it's your turn to go ahead and try.